It's a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Rollins. Welcome, sir, and congratulations on the film. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you very much.
We're going to talk about it specifically in a moment and take some questions from the audience. I want to ask you about something, though. I want to ask you about professional curiosity, because I just listed all the things that you do, and I think that out of anyone I can think of, you are somebody who I think is able to focus in on all sorts of areas that you're curious about, zero in on them, and kind of make the leap from one thing to the next. How big is curiosity for you in all of your endeavors?
It's the main fuel behind everything I do. Curiosity and anger.
Yeah.
Well, any place I haven't been, I'm mad at. I want to go.
Right,
and
yeah.
so you get your passport, the visa's stamped in, and you hit it. 3 weeks ago, I just came back from the Antarctic Peninsula, and it's curiosity that got me there. And I'm not mad at the ice or the penguins. I'm just angry to know more.
Right.
And so I just get up and go because I have nothing to lose. In that, what else are you going to do? Sit around? I can't stand that idea. And so I go.
What about, you've also talked about, the idea of being a minimum wage person, a person of, who was raised in a minimum wage environment on the same way. And I think that kind of thing fuels curiosity as well. I think there's sort of a sense of, I wasn't taught it, officially. I wasn't taught it in schools. There's things that I want to know, and I'm going to try and find out this stuff. Does that fuel you as well?
Absolutely. Also, I'm no one from nowhere. Yeah. And in high school, the teachers told me, you're never going anywhere. I'm like, well, okay. And I got lucky with rock and roll, and I got to see the world, and I went from there. So I know where I come from, and I know what I can go back to, which makes me fairly fearless to go forward. Because if I land on the ground and break my arm, I just get up and, and just keep going. So knowing where I come from, I have zero fear going forward. I'm not a tough guy. Yeah. I just don't want to go back to where I was. Yeah.
What about leapfrogging from one thing to the next? Does one project or one endeavor lead to the next, where you do a film and say, you know what, there's something I did some research on here. I don't know enough about that. Let me do something with that. Or you maybe have a host on one of your shows and you are intrigued by something there. You follow up on that. You say, you know what, maybe there's something I want to write about that, something I want to do. Do things kind of connect the dots like that for you?
In a way, but I'm a creature of opportunity. I'm an adventurist and an opportunist. And so say I do a film and someone sees the film, hey, we're doing a film, you want a part in this one, we saw you in that one. I'm like, well, if I have the time, yes. Yeah. And I didn't plan on it, it just happened. Like next year, there's a film I wrote a screenplay for, the film is finished, so I'll be out with that film next year, also speaking all over the world, about 25 countries. What happens in between all those points, if I have time, I'll go to a country I've never been to before. What happens in 2017, I have no idea at all what I'm doing in 2017, which to me is like cool, like let's fill it in, it's blank canvas. And so I don't do that much planning, and I don't say this year I'm doing movies, because I can't walk into a place and go, you're going to put me in a movie. That's just not, He Never Died. I read the script, it was sent to me, I read it, I loved it. The next day, conveniently, the director and the producer were in town, I was in New York, and I met them and I said, I love this film. They said, we wrote it with you in mind, you want to join in? I'm like, I'm in. And that's how I got the part. But usually, I audition. I stand in long lines. I get humiliated. I get told, thanks, get out. And so I'm used to that. Until I book my own tour, then it's me. I'm in control. But quite often, I'm just, hey, we're doing this TV show. You want to try and be in it? Yeah. Why not? Because again, I got nothing else to lose. So
I got to tell you, if you walked into a studio or into an office and you said, I want to be in this film, I think I would say yes. Just only because I'd be looking at you, pointing at me, and I said, I don't want to get him angry. So
yeah.
What about, do you get the same kick from everything that you did? Does it ebb and flow for you sometimes? Do you say, you know what, last year I was really into doing some music, I want to take a break from that, I want to do some acting here?
Absolutely. Like next year I'm going to go out and do talking shows all over. In 2017, I'll need to travel to get more material if I ever want to go on stage again, because I can't be repeating material. So 2017 will be travel and whatever else comes up. Hey, you want to be in a TV series? Yeah. What is it? And so I'll see what's happening. But whatever I do, as long as I'm not at home, not sitting on the couch, chances are I'm interested in it. And that's why I leave myself open. And over the years, I've done a ton of TV, a lot of film, a lot of documentary work, voiceover, 2 radio shows. I write for 2 different publications, own a publishing company. So I'm got a lot of plates spinning because I just say yes to things. And just remain, in general, curious. And it gets me places.
Before we take a look at a clip, I just want to. You just mentioned about being open and being. There's an interview you did with William Shatner a couple of years ago, and I really remember it well, where he was talking about sort of being vulnerable and open. You're talking about going to his house, playing and watching football with him and a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And he was sort of saying like, what made you invite me? And he was saying, it's about being vulnerable and open, even in friendships, all sorts of things like that. And I think that's really a crucial thing, isn't it? Especially as an artistic person, to be open to not only friendships but also whatever the next year might bring, whatever the next endeavor might bring. I think that obviously, along with anger, that sort of vulnerability in a weird way goes with it, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You have to factor in failure.
Yeah.
And whenever that's why I stopped doing music years ago, because I had no more lyrics. And I was in a position of either repeating the past, and everyone goes, yay, and you just kind of pet the dog, or do something where they go, that you're not very good at that. You're going to have to come back earlier next time and try harder. That is exciting to me. So if you give me any pool, I'll find the coldest, deepest part to jump into, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. And so I am always looking for new experiences where I get caught out there, where I'm a freshman, where I'm in the copy room trying to get up at the base of the mountain. Once I get up to the top of anything, like when I finish a movie, I don't want to see it. I just want to make another one. Any of my own records, I'll play them once after I get them back to make sure they're mastered correctly. Then I'm done with it. I only want to make a new one. I don't want to sail in the boat. I only want to build it, and you can have it.
Right.
Then I want to go back and build another one or something else.
Right.
So I like the doing of it. When I get to the finish line of completion, that part is kind of depressing. Like, okay, it's done. We wrapped. Man, got anything else to do?
Yeah, right.
And that's the only thing that makes me smile is, in 2 weeks, you're going here.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And what's the next thing?
Yeah, and so I use my home as a resting pad where I can repack, reconfigure my gear, and leave. Like, I get back to LA tomorrow. I'm gone in about a week and a half. I'll be in Berlin by New Year's Day.
Yeah, it's always a constant motion. It's always what's the next thing.
Which is kind of being like a maniac, but I'm a maniac, not harmful.
Right.
Just like I said, I'm an adventurist. So what I do is I invent headlines. I look at the map. I got 5 weeks off. I'll go there, moving in one direction. I call my travel agent. I go, book that. She's like, oh, this is awesome. And she books it, and I leave with a backpack and a camera, and I'll see you in 3 months or whatever.
Fantastic. Speaking about harmful maniacs, let's take a look at a clip from He Never Died. Let's bring up the director of the film, ladies and gentlemen, Jason Krawczyk. Welcome. Thank you. Now, you wrote this with Henry in mind, right?
Yes, I did.
Talk to me about the origin of this, the genesis of it, as it were.
I was always fascinated with villains and just like the discussion of evil. Like, is evil an actual thing, or are you a victim of your circumstances and you could be that, or is it something innate in you? And then I kind of cultured this character, and there was a lot of Twilight was out at the time, so there's a lot of these suave vampires that were showing up, and I was like, is that really how it would be if you lived forever and you had to eat people, or would you kind of be detached and kind of sad but gritty at the same time? And he's inspired me in more ways than 1,000. So I definitely had him in mind when I wanted a gritty, tough looking, but a shred of sympathy kind of guy. And then you were the perfect trinity, this mind, body, soul of what I wanted to go for with something like that. So I definitely wrote him in mind visually. And then when I got to the part where we're going to casting for this, and they're like, who do you want to look and who do you have in mind? I'm like, Henry Rollins. And then a day or two later, I met you, and you read the script a bunch of times, which was amazing.
I loved it as soon as I read it.
Let's describe the character, because even though you get a sense of it from the trailer, let's describe Jack to the audience.
Jack has been alive for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it flips the script on our existence in that we, to a certain degree, all do everything with an end date in mind. 10 places to go before you die. Right. Do this because one day you're dead. Right. And if you took that away, you might be elated for a while. I live forever? Awesome. Get back to me in 500 years and tell me how you like plague, war, death, injustice, horror, and tell me if you're happy to get up every day. Get back to me in 1,000 years and tell me how you're living. And that's where we move in on Jack. He lives in his underwear, sleeps 15 hours a day, watches TV, and he lives on human flesh. So he goes to bingo to get out of the building, where he sits with old people whose flesh is uninteresting, full of drugs, veiny and stringy, so he can be around people and not want to tear an arm off. Right. And he gets in a situation where he has to get back into the world of people, which he hates, because at this point, he is now surviving off bags of blood he buys from interns at the local hospital. And there's always a young broke med student he can buy blood from, so he doesn't have to kill anyone, lives alone. He's trying to emit the lowest possible pulse to get through eternity. And then things happen, and he has to start doing, he's a monster. He's an awful person.
That's one thing where the guy's done horrendous things. He's vulnerable. He can get a shred of sympathy, but he's not a good guy.
He's about 99% bad.
Yeah.
And there's these two people in the film, wonderful actresses, who we capitalize on Jack's 1% analog,
just
semi-human,
not terrible.
Exactly. The rest of him he's awful.
But in your hands, he's also very dry and funny, and obviously, it's a very deadly, serious type of funny. But it's also such this great dry wit.
Well, here's the reason that Jack is monotone, Hemingway-esque declarative sentences. He's trying to cut down on any energy expenditure with humans. That's why every scene of violence, snap, crack, pop, done.
Right.
Next, please leave me alone. That's why I'm not going to talk to you like this. I'm talking to you like this because I really want this to be over. Can you feel it? And so I would work with Jason. I go, it's like flatline. He goes, exactly. And so I had about a year to prepare. And I had to basically Botox my brain, my face, my central nervous system, because Jack is counterintuitive to everything that I am, which is active, loud, verbose, kind of bouncy. Yeah. Jack is like... and then you hit him, he's just like, really? Please, you got to go. And so I would ask Jason, that's the guy, right? He goes, yes. And so he's bored, he's depressed, and he finds any possible way to avoid people because they remind him that he's never going to die. Yeah. He really wants out.
Yeah. No caffeine during filming, obviously. No Starbucks, no espresso.
No, it was discipline showing up to the set every day and just I am in this linear... Because I can't lose that and all of a sudden break out into song and dance. Yeah. Or smile, or have a human moment with these people. I have to remember I'm other than. Right. And they don't get it. Right. And he's funny. He doesn't know he's funny. He's just being Jack. Yeah. And so it's situational comedy. Yeah. You see a young lady with a nose ring in here? Yeah. What does she look like? A young lady with a nose ring. Right. And I'm not even offended. I just need to know if she showed up, and I'll repeat that until he tells me. Right. And the funny part is the way you pitch it. He doesn't know he's funny. Right. It's what's around him that makes it funny. So.
That's right.
Yeah, trying to be serious and failing.
That's right.
I don't know why that's so funny, but
yeah.
I keep going back to that.
Before we get some questions from the audience, I just want to ask you about, because you guys are thinking about this as a TV show as well, TV series, and you've got a whole backstory set up for Jack, right? The whole idea of him. You've got stuff going through why he was in China during the Civil War and everything like that. You've got this sort of mapped out in a lot of ways.
We got a good chunk of it mapped out. It is the the culmination of human history. So it's a lot. Yeah. But we're trying to expand it as much as we can and get as much down as we can. And it'd just be a pleasure to get back in that world and work with Henry and the rest of the crew that were there. They were a dream come true.
Yeah, we wrapped the film, and I was back in Los Angeles 2 days later. I had a day off, then the wrap party, and then I left. And I got back to my home with a profound sense of emptiness. I missed the crew, I missed the set, I missed the actors and actresses, I missed Jack, and this thing that we had created. And I wanted a week off to catch my breath and go right back into part two. Wasn't written, but I hated leaving it, which is a good sign. And so we are conspiring together to see if Jack can keep on never dying, because it's a great story and he's got a great mind. And so I want to get in the vehicle and go. So
sounds great. We're going to take some questions now. Anyone from the left-hand side? We'll start and kind of swoop down.
So do you ever get tired? And if you do get tired, what do you find that energizes you so that you can continue with your wanderlust? And where do you think the source of your wanderlust is?
I get physically tired. I've been in New York for the last 3 days, getting up at 5 a.m. and doing 9 hours of press. My shirt is damp because I just sang a song with Stephen Colbert, which was completely crazy. We mauled A Christmas Carol. I don't think it'll ever recover. And tomorrow I get up at 3 in the morning to go to Los Angeles and do a full day of press after I get off the plane. I'm not high on anything, nor am I extraordinary. Like I said before, I know what I can go back to. And what energizes me is the chance to do something really cool, like a film, like a tour, like a this, like a that. And so I jump on it. And when I do burn out, what gets me remotivated is looking at the next month on the calendar going, wow, look at all the stuff I'm doing. Or the fear of it, maybe in 2 years, there's nothing on the calendar, so you better hit this. When I get off, I'll be off the road Friday night. I wrap out of all this, and I'm not responsible to anyone for a few days. I'm just going to overdose on music. I'm going to be hitting a lot of records, a lot of vinyl, which has been stacking up since I left. And that, to me, is the perfect joy. Caffeinated drink, the turntable, the speakers, that I really don't need anything else. So, what do you mean? Oh, I'm angry and curious. I have to qualify the anger part. I'm not mad at you at all. Quite the opposite. You can have half my sandwich any day. I'm just mad to know stuff, and I live urgently. I'm kind of a maniac. I'm a nut. And so, but not harmful. I just want to do stuff. I've been hyper since I was a little kid. You know, the one who would break down hysterically and cry at the birthday party when I lost pin the tail on the donkey. The one who hyperventilates for a day and a half. That was me. And then Ritalin came and locked me down.
Henry, when you moved into the world of film, who intimidated you stepping into this new world? And what would 16-year-old Henry Rollins, who worked at Haagen-Dazs, say to 50-something Henry Rollins today?
The whole thing intimidated me. I started doing film at the behest of Crispin Glover, the actor, who's a pal of mine. And he said, Henry, I want you to consider acting. I'm like, I'm a starving musician. And he said, please stay open-minded. You might like it more than you think. Within a year, I was in a UCLA student film called No, Not One. It never came out, but it was a lot of acting, very dramatic, very heavy. It was like jump school. And a few years after that, I'm chasing Charlie Sheen down the highways of Texas in The Chase and on and on. What intimidated me? All of it. Because I never took an acting lesson. I'm out of my league. I'm around people who do this seriously. So in order not to feel fake, I had to really invest and figure out, what is this? I knew I liked it. I just didn't understand what it was. After a few films, and when I wasn't acting, I'd sit on set and watch real actors and how they prepare and understand that acting isn't just talking when the other guy stops. You really have to be in every second of the thing. As soon as I made that transition in the 90s, when I really was acting a lot and getting it, then it became a joy, and I could take everything that I'd learned on stage, my fearlessness with a band or on my own, and plug that into acting, where I no longer feared auditions. I couldn't wait to go to an audition. I had 3 ideas. I couldn't wait for the person to see it. Couldn't wait to get on the set and find other people to be in that moment, that hyper-reality moment with. And so I stopped being intimidated and just got into the joy of the art. And once you are around real actors, you see how bloody hard it is, and you appreciate someone who can do it. It is so hard. Like in this film, I was surrounded by amazing actors. Like if you see the film, you'll see I got carried, basically, by an amazing cast. And when you're in the jet stream with people who want to deliver, you're good to go. I was in a film once called Heat. I did scenes with Al Pacino. So you're trying to keep up with basically Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon, because he can act a little. I mean, but thankfully he's kind, and I was prepared and terrified of failure. And I passed for normal. I held up. I was on set one day, and he did a scene with someone who wasn't prepared. They hadn't done their due diligence, and he had a very fun time with this guy. The guy wasn't ready, and he kind of not doing it. And he's like, young man, do you have rocks in your head? Michael, who is this young man? Is he prepared? What's going on in this mind of yours, young man? And the guy's smiling, everyone's laughing, and you would hate to have been him. And that's when I started thinking, I'm going to not only memorize my lines, I'm going to memorize the entire script. I am going to get into the totality of the film. So the next time I show up, I'm ready to do your part, my part, our parts together, in high falsetto, in a fake French accent. I mean, that can never happen to me. And that made me take it even more seriously. Not myself, but the art of it, the work of it. And then the more you work, the more you invest and just dive in without a net. and relying on the other actors to really let it happen, you never want to do anything but act. It's the best. So.
Left-hand side here. Yes, ma'am. Right there.
Hi, Henry. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Who is your inspiration for actors, and who would you like to act with?
Oh, I'm happy to be anywhere acting. I mean, if it's like this, I didn't know any of the actors on this show. I just showed up and got to work. I'm not at all good enough to say I want this director and this. If anyone who wants me, if it works out, I'm kind of happy to be there doing it. Real actors, like I'd be way too intimidated to say anyone's name for fear of it ever really happening. And then you're like, oh no, it's happening. I'm fairly intimidated by the Hollywood world because I came in through a side door. So I've been lucky. I've worked with directors I was a fan of before I was in their film. I was in a David Lynch film, and one day he called me. I'm at my office working at my little publishing company. Hey, it's David Lynch. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm trying to figure out who it really is. He goes, hey, I'm doing a film called Lost Highway. I got like a few days left of shooting. I have no more budget, but I have a few small parts I want to give to cool people. Would you like to be in my movie? I said, where are you right now? Don't move. And I just drove over there. And I met him and Bill Pullman and Patricia Arquette, and they were wonderful. He goes, I need a prison guard. I go, I can be a prison guard. They're like, here's your uniform. The pants are high water. I'm like, he's like, we just won't shoot that part. And all of a sudden, I'm in a David Lynch film, with like 4 lines of dialogue. But I spent, a week with David Lynch, and we're friends to this day. I would have liked to have said, I want to be in a David Lynch film. I wouldn't say that now for fear of it happening and me just bombing and wasting everyone's time. So I was lucky, and I've ended up with, like, I'm in a movie with this guy. Why am I here? And so it took me a few films to be on a set and not feel like the Hollywood cops are going to bust me and like drag me off. Like when I got a role in Sons of Anarchy, I'm like, really? I'm screwed because these people can act. What am I going to do? And so I hung in there. I was clinging, getting beaten up by Charlie every day. But for me, the whole thing has just been, it's why I take risks. Because it puts me on my A game. Every day you wake up at 4, like, okay, don't screw this up. That's when I'm at my best. When I think I've got it handled, that's when the crocodile bites you. And I never think I've got it wired. And it's good for me to remember you're not that good, so you better show up early and then you better bring it because you're going to be out. Everyone else is much better than you. That's good for me to keep in my head.
I'm going to take 2 more questions. Just a very quick question. Was there one moment that surprised you guys on the set the most? Was there something spontaneous that came up?
When it comes to spontaneity, the thing that surprised me the most, actually, was we were doing the finale of the movie, and we didn't have a lot of time to rehearse the scene in segments. So you had to do like 10 pages of dialogue straight, like a stage play, and just being able to see that, because you'll never see that on a film set. You'll just see the, like, I love you, cut. And then that's like, all right, set up for a half hour. And then, but to see actors intertwine and come in and come out and have him do the whole thing in one large chunk, you'd never really, that never really happens. So when you get to see that, like, oh, Jesus, his enthusiasm is ridiculous as well as his dedication. And this is, we have to make this good.
With your booming stentorian voice.
Not as loud as yours, though. So basically, when I heard about this film, I sort of read into like the backstory of Cain. It's based on Jack is basically Cain, and that story I've discovered happily is kind of been retold many times over the past 6,000 years that it's been around. And my question is basically, did you guys do a lot of research? Did you read, like Steinbeck did a version of Cain and Abel and East and Eden? Did you read in any the other sort of mixes or takes on Cain and Abel and incorporate it into your movie and how you built your character?
When it comes to just like the strict Cain stuff, not so much, but I did do a lot of just, like Paradise Lost. That was something I really wanted to dive into, and just like the dichotomy of like evil, good and evil, and just making sure that was, I wanted to keep it, I wanted to have the mythos of religion in it, but not be a religious movie, if that makes any sense. Like, it just so happens the guy's Cain. It just so happens this, but it's like Kim psychologically is a stone's throw away from somewhat what could be reality. And I just wanted it. So when it comes to research, I kind of try to stick that to more like Ron Johnson, help me out here. John Ronson, like just like keeping the psychology and trying to keep that fairly concrete or fairly like close to reality.
Henry, how about you? Did you do any special
For
reading?
me, it's my disappointment with humans. Well, in our wonderful country, in 1865, we had the 13th Amendment, and it didn't really free anyone. And in 1868, we had the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. And from that, we get Jim Crow. This country has failed one time after another to have equality. Women are some weird minority who, when they want equal pay for equal work, they're like, what are you crazy? Gay people are ghettoized, and we don't seem to be able to get over these hurdles. And that's when I want to write off all Homo sapiens and go, you know what, I'm done with you, and I'll just take my Zeppelin 4 record and go to my room. And so sometimes I have heartbreak over humans, what they do to each other. They go blow themselves up at a venue and kill a bunch of wonderful, beautiful young people. What if you had 1,500 years of that in your thinking? What if you could reference every war man ever did? What would your disappointment and hatred of humanity be when you had to endure wars, pestilence, and so much injustice that we exact upon each other all the time? And I'm only 55, so I've had quite a snoutful of it, thank you very much. What if I had thousands of years of it? What would I be like? That's what I put into Jack. I didn't do any research. I just tried to think, what would he be like right now after all of that battering? Maybe he loved once. Maybe he used to be a more upbeat guy. Maybe he enjoyed being a soldier who couldn't die. He got jaded, and he's the most jaded, depressed biped on the planet. So it's any bad day you've had plus centuries to dwell. And that's what I brought to it. So he's a crushingly depressed bummer monster. And which reminds me, on Sunday mornings, I hate him. I'm kidding. But so I did no research whatsoever. I just went into myself and what would I be like after the bubonic plague, World War I, et cetera, et cetera.
A bummer monster, but one that you're going to enjoy seeing. No kidding. It is really a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Rollins, Jason Krawczyk. Movie is He Never Died.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.